Dan Butterly, the commissioner of the Big West, is joining the CJ Silas Show. I guess congratulations on your new job. Welcome and ta-da!
CJ, great way to put it. Absolutely. I mean, nothing like coming into the commissioner position, 5.5 months ago, having to learn the nuances of the Big West Conference and a number of things that were already on the plate for the new commissioner, but also having to manage a pandemic and a number of unprecedented issues that nobody has ever dealt with in this era. So it's a crazy time.
It is nuts. And it's not like you haven't worked in sports. You worked for the Missouri Valley Conference. You worked for the NCAA and men's basketball and football. You worked for Mountain West for years. So you've got sports and collegiate experience. But there's nothing you could have learned at Illinois State or anywhere else that would teach you on how to deal with the pandemic. So when it all went down in March, just walk us through that moment, that day, when you knew things were going to shift really quickly, moment to moment.
Yeah, I was fortunate at the Mountain West. We actually had played our basketball championship a week earlier to avoid a major convention in the city of Las Vegas. So we were towards the middle of the Mountain West tournament, the women's tournament in Las Vegas, and we were getting wind of the pandemic coming into the United States, and on an hourly update from UNLV's campus and trying to figure out exactly where we were with the virus and whether we could continue to compete. And we were fortunate that we were able to compete and complete the Mountain West Men's and Women's Championship successfully, which was great. But we got out of Las Vegas, and we started seeing the virus was starting to spread, and seeing 19 other conferences that had to cancel their championships the next week, and how everything immediately shut down relative to the NCAA tournaments. The spring sports were soon after that, and then just having to manage life for everybody soon after that time period was just again unprecedented time and unprecedented challenges that we still face.
And then you were with the conference for 3 more months before you became commissioner of the Big West. What did the spring into summer look like for you on how to either figure out whether sports were coming back at all, what you were going to do with softball, baseball, all the things that everyone expects to see in April, May, and June?
Yeah, that was the most difficult part, and still is a difficult challenge for all of us. Is what does this impact on the student athletes? The seniors this past spring, in the spring of 2019, the spring of 2020, that were in a position that they wanted to compete and they were completing their eligibility, and we're looking forward to senior night and those type of things. What kind of effect was this going to have on student athletes' mental health and well-being, but also the unknowns of the pandemic and the seriousness of the virus? Nobody knew what the implications were if you were going to continue to play. So it really came down to a point you just had to do what you felt was best nationally, and the NCAA took a leadership role and canceled spring championships. Many conferences were doing the same thing just because of the unknowns. And it was an unfortunate time and decisions that had to be made because there was not that much knowledge of the virus at that point. But now we're learning more about the virus on a daily basis. I mean, congratulations to the scientists and healthcare workers that have developed a vaccine that is now available in the first run. That maybe sooner rather than later, maybe over the next 6 months, we can get back to life as normal. We're competing and doing the things that we want to do. But right now, it's really at that time was a very challenging decision to make, and it's still we have those challenging decisions to make.
So then you get into your position with the Big West, and now you've got to deal with what you're going to do with women's volleyball, basketball, soccer, cross country. When this all was going down, June, July, August, how much did it change on a regular basis what you were going to do with bringing student athletes back to campus?
Well, we were looking forward to fall sports. My first official day in the commissioner position was July 1st. And that is when you started seeing that Memorial Day spike. And by the time we got to mid-July, you saw that second wave hitting. And the decision to postpone fall sports was a difficult one, but we were hopeful that as we continued to learn more about the virus and hoping that masking and social distancing and all these type of things would become the societal norms at that point, we were hopeful that we could get fall sports completed in the spring. And obviously, we were also tracking on basketball at the same time. So the virus, the second wave kind of diminished, and we looked at the path to get basketball started and get basketball played successfully, and established a significant number of medical protocols, game management protocols, officiating protocols, significant amount of work by so many people to get us to that point. And the board of directors made the decision that we would go ahead and move forward with basketball, use that as the pilot programs, men's and women's basketball, to see if we could compete in other sports during the 2020-21 academic year successfully. And, we've been able to get basketball underway, but we've had our challenges in basketball relative to some positive cases and some teams having to shut down. And that's not going to be, it's going to be something we're going to be dealing with all season long.
What went into that decision? Because I am guessing that deciding to cancel all of those sports and continue to watch basketball to decide what you're going to do with the spring sports, how much back and forth and time did it take? Because I'm guessing it was a very difficult decision.
Absolutely difficult decision and heartbreaking in many ways for all of us involved, because we were hopeful that, again, the masking and social distancing and all the things that people continue to recommend to do, that we wouldn't be in this third wave, and we could provide a breath or some relief for our team physicians, our athletic training staffs, and the resources that we're able to put forward relative to testing and protocols. And it was a very difficult decision. The board of directors have met multiple times. As indicated, the athletic directors, the senior women administrators are meeting weekly. I mean, we've been doing this since the decision was made in July to postpone fall sports. We've had fall sports on the agenda for every one of these meetings. The board and the athletic directors met last Thursday, spent a couple hours looking through the information that was available and had conversations with each campus. And ultimately, what they looked at was the safety challenges affecting Big West campuses and communities and the significant resources required to properly safeguard the health and well-being of our student athletes. We just couldn't get to that level that we needed to do to conduct 18 sports all at the same time in the spring period.
How are you feeling about spring sports?
Spring sports continues to move forward at this point. We have not changed anything relative to the schedules. Each institution can determine what they want to do with their non-conference schedule. Should they just want to play a conference-only schedule? Right now, they can do that just based upon where the virus is and what what they may be dealing with in their locale or their county restrictions that they may have. But we're hopeful that we can get basketball season completed. We're hopeful that we can get spring sports underway at the right time. But the board of directors will meet again in the weeks ahead to look at where we're at with the virus in the state of California, in Hawaii, and make a determination on spring sports sometime in mid to late January.
Dan, what are you feeling about fans coming back to sports in the spring? Is there any possibility that we'll be able to have them in the stands and in the arenas? I
am very hopeful. I'm hopeful that this vaccine can continue to be produced, that the vaccine is successful, that we can get as many people vaccinated with that 1 or 2 doses, whichever virus vaccine you're taking can get accomplished. And maybe towards April, May, we can look at fans in the stands, getting back to baseball and softball and track and field. I'm hopeful that we can get there, but obviously we got to do whatever's best at this point for the safety of our student athletes. We want them to be able to compete and enjoy the sport that they perform in. I know they'd love to have their parents and their friends and family at their games, but again, it's really about providing them that experience while on campus and doing so in a safe fashion.